We're back here on the program in the final segment and talking about gender-based violence in our country with Rubie Nottage and Dr. John Dillet. We heard about stress early on in this program. These are some stressful times. And there are many homes and relationships that are challenged because of financial issues. And Doctor, speak to how we are going to reduce the level of stress in the society when you have protracted periods of people who are hurting financially because they are stressed out.
Absolutely. I mean, worldwide, obviously, we still have difficult economies in most places. But we also have to look at the pressure that we put on ourselves, because we've redefined what success is in our lives as opposed to 20 years ago or 50 years ago. It used to be where you would work really hard, whether you went to school or you started your own business, and you strive to buy your own home, be able to send your kids to good school, and to have something hopefully left over for retirement when you got older. Nowadays, the sheer materialism that's in our culture creates so much stress. If you do not have X by a very early age, you're looked down upon. In order to achieve things or in order to be viewed as a success, you have to have attained certain things. We put a tremendous amount of pressure on our young people who, from their adolescence, are always looking at trying to fit in by the use of materials. That's something that we certainly have to look at. So our system of our moral system, our values have changed to a degree where we are more now in terms of accumulation, and accumulation very quickly, and that leads to a lot of stress. Second thing is obviously the family structure has changed. The family structure has been weakened, I think, in many ways, where a lot of single parent homes, where families are not as close together as they may have been. You look at the rates of divorce, you look at the rates of children who are not adequately cared for. We lead into very difficult environments where there are a lot of people who have resentment because they didn't have dad in the home, or they're not able to afford the brand new tennis or video games. They go to school, and so they exhibit that anger. The anger is exhibited towards them. When they grow older and they go into the workplace, that anger is exhibited towards them. They retaliate it towards others. And so there's just a learned environment. That's the reason why you have so much road rage. If you go on the streets of Nassau and you're driving around, how many people are angry and cussing off each other for very simple or minor things?
Yes.
But that's because the frustration is building. It's just like that ticking time bomb. The frustration is continuing to build, and we've put a lot of pressure on ourselves. The simple things in life, it seems, no longer give us happiness. Just to walk out on the beach and see green and see beautiful waters, that's not enough. And so we have to re-examine our morals and our values. That's first. But we also have to identify now that people are under pressure. How do we approach them and get them assistance? We're still very closed. We don't want people to know when we're in pain. We don't want to let people know that we're having difficulties paying the mortgage or the car payment and whatnot. We want to hide because we feel shamed. We feel guilty if people find out. We have to, again, teach people that that's not the way to be. You do not have to suffer in silence. You do not have to feel ashamed. We need to bring people together, close together, as opposed to putting them apart. So I think it's many different ways that we need to attack the problem.
So we have to determine what makes a good quality life.
Exactly, a good quality Bahamian life. Where we belong. I put Bahamian in because you need to know that you belong. You're a Bahamian. And we belong to each other. And we are a part of each other. Now that language has not been in conversation for a long time. And I mean, the example you gave of the isolated young Haitian person, they immediately feel we don't belong. And therefore we're going to work out whatever we feel is our belonging on the people who are around us. But if you knew you belonged, you would then know that you must respect this one or protect that one.
Yeah.
That's a part of the education.
This is a government task force, as you said, appointed by the Prime Minister. And so the state is getting involved in seeking to reduce the level of gender-based violence. But the moralizing institutions in our society must play their role. And how do you reach them? One would have thought that this would have been an initiative, say, from the church. The moralizing institutions and civil society, how do you get them involved?
Well, you know, I'm not critical of them. I think they're all operating in their own silos. Everybody, as it were, has closed themselves into their own work areas, and they are working. And one of the objectives of our task force has been to go out and find out who really is doing work around here. Salvation Army is doing a wonderful work. And then you go into some of the churches and you'll see that they will have a special care kitchen, or they may have a counseling for young women, or they may have a counseling for the perpetrator. The Roman Catholics, for example, have an excellent program which has seen tremendous results in treating the perpetrator. But we don't know about all of these things. And so the Secretariat's responsibility, therefore, is to be able to accumulate all of the knowledge of all of the various activities that are going on, and then seek to bolster where they need bolstering. We need more concerted action. So I don't want to criticize the moral spokespersons. I think they need to speak up. They need to step up to the plate and be more vocal, although some of them are. Some of them are very vocal. But credibility is very important too, you know. I think in our society, our young people particularly have lost faith in what we're saying. They see us doing one thing and saying another. And so credibility has to be built into their hearts and into their lives. Truth. Young people like truth. And when they see truth coming forth, and our religious people need to realize this, that face is very important. You cannot say one thing and do another. And so I can't legislate morality. I wish I could. But again, the teaching experience is a learning experience for all. It isn't just going to be for the young people. And so that mirror image that I was talking about, where the older person comes in to mentor those younger persons, I think those older people are going to learn a lot about themselves even.
Mrs. Nottage and Dr. Dillet, we live next door to one of the most violent societies of the world, the United States of America. In fact, sociologists call it a venal society. And we are importing influences. And you see the American lifestyle that is ever present in the Bahamas. And how do you filter it? How do you counter it? Because there is a culture of violence that we see throughout America. How do you put a filter or counter that? And because I'm sure it's impacting on our lifestyle here in the Bahamas.
Well, Mr. Jones, I wish it was only the United States that was giving us that type of influence, but the unfortunate reality is it's regional and worldwide where we're getting these influences of violence. In the Caribbean, I mean, when you look at assault and rape rates and things of that nature, throughout the Caribbean we have very high rates as well. So it's not only the United States, but certainly your point is extremely well taken. What we have to remember is that we are who we are. We are not the United States, we're not Jamaica, we're not Haiti. This is the Bahamas. We're Bahamians. We have our own identity. We have to forge our own path moving forward. We will dictate the characteristics of our society. We have to take more control.
But you have to admit that it is an overpowering influence coming from North America. When you hear 50 Cent saying, get rich or die trying, and that kind of verbiage coming from America, you must take all of these into consideration and admit that that level of cultural influence is extremely powerful and perhaps overpowering.
It is powerful, and I think we have not done enough in terms of a nationalistic approach to promote the things that we should be proud of in terms of the Bahamas. to mandate certain things. I know a lot of things have been thrown around about service and this and that and history and whatnot. We have to do more of that to instill a sense of pride in our young people and everyone, that we are proud to be Bahamian. We don't want to be anything else. We're not trying to mimic other things. We would like to take things that are positive, that can benefit our country from other places, United States included, wherever else, but we want to ensure that we are proud to be Bahamian. We have to learn what is great about our country, and we have to be kind of encouraged or guided to take on the mantle of being Bahamian. And I think that has not been done enough. You go to other places, and when you look at their school programs and the nationalistic approach that they use, there's no way in the world that a young person should come out of high school and not know all of the founding fathers and heroes of our nation. There's no way in the world that we should not be able to say to anyone who comes to visit all of the wonderful things that have gone through our country. Many of our own people don't know our own history. You know, we don't know the great things that some of us, our forefathers, have done. We don't know of some of the wonderful things that are being done presently. We have to have a nationalistic approach. No more tribalism. One person doing one thing, the other doing the next. We need to be nationalistic in our approach.
A gender-based task force is seeking a kinder, gentler society.
Yes, a more caring,
Yes.
a more relational, and a more concerned society. I belong, and you belong, and we respect each other. And I think that's possible. But I also want to be sure that you know that I value you, and to encourage you to have a sense of self-worth. No matter what's happened to you, whatever your past has been, there is still the possibility that I believe there is, that you are worth all that could ever happen to the Bahamas. And that sense of self-worth has to be transmitted to all of our people. And if you know who you are and you're proud of who you are, oh, anything that's happening in the outer world, yes, you're going to listen to it. But you know that this is where home is, and you're going to protect that turf. So again, maybe I'm being optimistic.
I think you have a whole lot of work. Your work is cut out for you, because we are talking about how we ought to engender self-respect and the respect for others, so that we can reduce the level of violence in the society. It's a tall order.
But it can be done. We have examples around the world of places who had epidemics of crime and have succeeded by implementing measures. Now, it's not something that can be fixed overnight, but if we make the proper investments now, we will see those changes as time goes on. We will reap those benefits. And as we all are in our retirement phase, we can think that we've left this Bahamas better for our young people.
But re-education, re-educating a people is something that takes a whole lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of time, and it has to be structured.
Yes.
And there has to be a national strategic plan for it to happen.
And that's what we're producing. That is exactly what we've been called to do, a national strategic plan. And I think that when that is laid out and rolled out by the Prime Minister, I hope there'll be a buy-in by persons such as you. I want to say, too, that, you know, when we talk about re-educating and re-informing our people, we're talking really not about just reinventing the wheel. That's not it at all. We're talking about going back to basics, calling on what is innate in every one of us. And it isn't that difficult. It isn't that difficult to call that forth. We did it in the HIV/AIDS epidemic. We were able to be the one country in this region that diagnosed what was happening, alerted everyone, and really had a corner on how to deal with it. We also did it when Dr. Allen took under his own wing the whole aspect that he did in the program of developing societal's approach in his way to drug addiction.
Cocaine addiction.
Yes, cocaine addiction. We became successful as a country. We re-educated our people, or educated, whichever way. The education is very important, but the moving together is extremely important. If we could do it with AIDS, if we could do it with cocaine addiction, we can do it with violence.
Yes, but you're talking about something that is culturally ingrained.
Yes, even more so. You start with the young, and I know you've already begun to think this way.
I think you're doing a fantastic work here with the task force, and we wish you well, because I know what you are saying. These things are achievable if you have everyone buying into what you're doing.
Yes. And again, as I say, if you've learned how to be violent, it can be unlearned.
Unlearned.
That is not an impossibility. Learning, the brain and the living experience is always new and always open for new things. And so that's where the hope is. We have to put a little bit of hope in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better, there's no better investment that you can make than in the health and the productivity and the happiness of our people.
Because we are dealing with a public health issue, aren't we?
It is.
It is.
Absolutely. It's a
Violence is a
health
public health issue.
and a public health disaster. It's almost as though we had a hurricane hit us. We know how to put our country back together and to get our people back in their homes and how to get water to the islands. Now we need to get together in this public health issue, and as a family of Bahamians, bring water and health and healing to everyone.
Thank you so very much for being here today. We appreciate it. It's
Thank
always
you.
good to speak with you.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to see you. Thank you for watching and listening to our program today. Good evening, everyone.